Welcome back to Steeped in Cinema, the podcast where we pair thought-provoking cinema with equally thought-provoking tea. I'm your host, Brett Voyna, and today we are going to be flipping through the static to explore the grainy, chaotic, and chilling world of found footage / live footage horror. And, you know, what it really says about us, as we tend to do here on Steeped in Cinema. I am flying solo on this episode today. Meggers wanted to be a part of the podcast, but she just got insanely busy this week and just didn't have time to sit down to record with us. But she will be back, folks. Don't worry. As well as maybe some other guests. We'll see. I don't know. But today we're going to be diving into three specific, very different but connected pieces of found footage, live footage type of horror. We're going to be talking about the 1990 Tales from the Crypt episode, Television Terror. We're also going to be discussing a VHS-style indie film that's actually becoming quite popular as like a little cult sensation, the WNUF Halloween Special. And we're also going to be looking at the Shudder original Internet Age Screamfest, Deadstream. Quick shout out to my good friend Rob Tollison, who has recommended this topic and also recommended the Television Terror and Deadstream film. Extra shout out there, Rob, because he knows that I don't particularly get into live footage that much. However, he hit the nail on the head with these recommendations. I did enjoy everything here. Of course, a Halloween Special WNUF was something that I was gifted a while back and instantly fell in love with the film, but we'll get into all that as we discuss. And we're going to be pairing this discussion with another fantastic tea from the Ohio Tea Company. This is the Yunnan Black from Ohio Tea Company. This is the official description from Ohio Tea Company. It is a full-bodied Chinese tea with a malty sweet finish from the 2018 spring harvest in Yunnan. So this particular brewing batch here came from the 2018 spring harvest in Yunnan, China. So we're going to take a little sippy sip here and see what we got going on. Okay. Yeah, it's a very nice, smooth black tea. A little malty, very earthy, kind of grounds you. I'm thinking it's a little earthy, little dirty, little grainy, kind of like the found footage. Maybe I'm reaching on that one, but no, yeah, this is a very this is of course the pure tea, not a flavored tea or anything. I do have a little bit of honey in the cup, but this is just a standard Chinese Yunnan black tea, very earthy. As I mentioned, it's very slow, comforting, but you know, it kind of stays with you, kind of like these films. So, big thank you to our friends at the Ohio Tea Company for partially sponsoring this episode of Steeped in Cinema. Guys, if you are a tea drinker and prefer the loose leaf style, please check out the Ohio Tea Company. If you are in the Canton, Ohio area, they are located at 5154 Fulton Drive in Canton. Stop in. They have a huge selection of loose leaf teas as well as other tea-related items. You know, they have tea sets and trays and just all kinds of things that are tea-related, and it's a great little shop, so you should check them out. Also online at www.ohiotco.com, and I will, of course, be leaving links to them in the description of this episode. So, thank you, Ohio Tea Company. Now, my friends, grab your tea if you want to head there and grab some Yunnan Black or any kind of black tea or whatever beverage, coffee, whatever you're drinking. Grab it, sit down, or if you're driving along in your car, make sure you have your lid on your cup. And let's rewind the tapes and jump into some cinema discussion. First, what I want to do is get some context here of what these films are, what we're talking about, and to clarify that no, the Blair Witch Project did not start the found footage genre, merely brought it into the mainstream. But it was not the first. It was not the founder by any means. In fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the credit of one of the earliest, more controversial examples of the found footage genre was Cannibal Holocaust in 1980. This film, infamous for many reasons, and most of them are unpleasant, but it essentially lays the groundwork for the genre. It blends like a faux documentary format with staged violence, and even the marketing itself is an actual found footage. Ethical questions it raised, exploitation, yada yada, but that was sort of the earlier form of the genre. But let's talk about what the specific episodes and films that we're discussing for this episode here. Tales from the Crypt, 1990, with television terror. This one, I think, deserves a little more credit than it gets, or that would get. It's a short form horror story, if you're familiar with Tales from the Crypt. And it's sort of this given to you in the form of a tabloid TV broadcast. So you have this Geraldo-style reporter named Horton Rivers, and the typical plot, desperate for ratings type of thing, broadcasting live from a supposedly haunted house. It starts off with the usual camp, cheap laughs, the mockery of the supernatural type of thing. But of course, it gradually devolves into something disturbing. And of course, the plot here is that it's playing out live. We're the viewers and we're the audience of this television broadcast. And the concept is that the horror is unfolding right in front of us in real time. Smart. It's an early twist on the idea that horror can exist not just within a narrative, but just in the act of watching it itself. I think it's a very strange thing with humans. Bless you, Groot. My kitty sneezed. Get a little sniffle. But now let's move ahead to the WNUF Halloween Special, which takes the form of an old VHS recording of a local news special. I love this film. As I said, it's like you're watching a recording on a VHS tape. There's fast forwards and things. There's commercials, all that kind of stuff. The commercials are, of course, all fake and generated, part of the show, part of the experience, but they're very well done, and you feel like you're watching a broadcast from the 80s. It's great. It's oversaturated, it's awkward. It's like a cable access, grainy footage, cheesy Halloween graphics. Like I said, the commercials are really great. In fact, I think the commercials are the best part of that film. But it becomes this exercise in nostalgia. It kind of has a very funny, comical thing to it, but not at the same time. It sort of plays on your trust in the media, that kind of thing. So if you haven't seen the WNUF Halloween Special, check it out. It's awesome. And then we move into Deadstream, which is a natural evolution for the genre. This does not come at us in the form of a lost tape or a TV broadcast, like by a corporate television network or anything. This is a full-on YouTube live stream. We're talking about our main character in this movie is like a disgraced YouTuber. Yeah. And being a person who is on YouTube, I connected with this movie a lot. But he's this disgraced YouTuber, and he's live streaming a night in a haunted house. Pretty much the format of all of these movies, And really, right out of the gate, this one, Deadstream, it has this commentary about internet culture. And as you're watching it, you really feel like you are part of a live stream. One of my biggest gripes with the found footage genre itself, one of the reasons why I don't get into it a lot, is because a lot of times it does not feel believable, in the sense I don't believe what I'm watching. And I'm going to say this because I know I'm watching horror, and I know there's an element of fantasy. And hear me out. I am down for pretty much any type of horror. I will believe and get into the universe no matter what or how ridiculous the concept is. If you write me a story that is believable, create me a universe, give me the rules of your world, I will believe it. It could be about a killer couch. And if you do it good, I'll believe it. But the problem with found footage is that a lot of times it's not believable. Like in the movie Quarantine, for example, this is a great film, but I just don't believe it. I don't believe that people who are being chased by sped up, ravenous creatures of bloodthirsty people are going to be running around trying to film it carrying a 50 to 60 pound television camera. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. If I'm being chased by a group of bloodthirsty people who are coming at me wanting to tear my flesh apart, first of all, I'm going to lunge that camera at them, and then I'm booking it. You're going to see a ghost, smoke silhouette of Brett as I'm running out the door. So that's my problem. But these films in particular felt real when you're watching them, especially Deadstream, because it's set up to be like a real live stream. He's putting cameras all over the house, so the footage that you get feels very authentic. And then, of course, the way that it's told, the guy is very obnoxious, annoying, but painfully true and familiar. We've all seen that YouTube streamer personality with the loud reactions and the desperate need for attention and all that kind of stuff. But I think what made Deadstream so effective is that it holds up a mirror to us just as much as it does to the character. And it's very self-aware without being like a parody. You know what I mean? It's not a scary movie type parody where it's making fun of the genre, but it is self-aware, and I think it's brilliant. Almost like Scream. How Scream is an excellent horror slasher film that doesn't make fun of the genre so much, but it's just very self-aware, and I think this was very well done in that respect as well. And it comes at us with the knowledge that this guy, this protagonist, is going to do anything for an audience, and we are still going to watch. And that is scary in and of itself. So when you look at these three, television, terror, WNUF, and Deadstream, you're not just looking at found footage stories. You are seeing how horror adapts to the media of its time. A sensationalist TV report, a VHS tape that's, found somewhere, or a chaotic live stream event. Each one says something about how we watch, and more importantly, why we watch. What scares us is embedded in the technology itself, because horror in found footage doesn't happen in spite of the camera. It's happening because of it, because of the audience. And that's just, I think it just says something about people who want to watch it, Now, here's where things get really, boy, that tea's got a very strong sort of aftertaste to it. Like it stays with you there. But anyway, here's where things start to get interesting as we move into the second segment of conversation here. Found footage horror, when done right, like I said, they're not a lot. There's 90% of them don't hit, but there are a few that work. And when they're done right, it's not just a gimmick or a stylistic choice. This is a cultural mirror, of course, and it reflects what we are fearing most in the time. It's not just the supernatural essence of the story or whatever. It is much deeper. It's a much more of a societal look. So let's head back to television terror then. Let's talk about that. This episode aired in 1990, I believe. Yes. Right when sensationalism in media was really picking up steam. So think about that. You have the era of hard copy, Geraldo, the early days of 24-hour news. It was the moment when news shifted from journalism to entertainment. And television terror was perfect on that. This character of Horton Rivers, he's the kind of character that's thriving on spectacle. He he walks into the house where real horrible things have happened, and this turns into a ratings opportunity. And, he's the kind of guy who's not caring about who he steps on or what he does or how he treats people. He just wants that attention. He wants those ratings. And we, the audience, are invited to laugh, cringe, and most importantly, watch. The horror isn't just the ghosts or the spooky things. It's the fact of what the network producers are willing to do to keep those viewers coming, to keep those ratings higher. There's a point in the episode where it becomes real for the host, Horton. He is starting to realize that, oh my gosh, I'm actually being attacked by an entity in this house. However, on the behind the scenes look, the producers are watching it and they're watching their ratings skyrocket. And instead of like calling in police to help Horton, or rather than just canceling the whole thing and getting him out of there and just pulling the plug on the whole thing for his safety, they choose to keep him locked in that house, to keep him there in that situation. They don't send in any help because the ratings are, as they say in the show, the ratings are just too high, Horton. And they're sacrificing his safety for the ratings under the belief that it's still a fictional broadcast. They don't actually 100% think that it's happening, but once little Horton hears a... I don't know, I just kept wanting to say that. But once Horton ends up dead by the end of the episode, they realize that it is very much real, and holy crap, what did we do? So I think that that is the genius of the episode, really, is how early it taps into that conversation. You know, before we had viral live streams, and before the true crime genre really exploded, television terror was already asking that question of how far are we willing to go to tap into the real pain of performance. Damn, that's got a strong taste. Then we move into WNUF Halloween Special, which approaches this idea from a totally different angle through nostalgia. And like I've mentioned before in previous conversations, you know, nostalgia is a tricky device. It's a very manipulative feeling because it's a liar. You know, it doesn't give us the actual truth. It tells us a fantasy version of what we want. And I think that WNUF taps into that very well. It's very sly. You start by watching what you feel is this very, you know, comically little, silly little news broadcast. It's a fuzzy VHS texture. It has a Halloween-themed commercials. You got these cheesy news anchors. And it's, you know, it feels like comfort food for anyone who lived through that time. But then as the movie goes on, it starts to become weirder, and you just kind of find yourself glued to it in a very strange, uncomfortable way. The familiar aesthetic is just really a disguise for this crazy little creepy story that you're about to watch. And WNUF reminds us that media has always been shaping reality. And even when it's presented as an innocent thing, there is an agenda behind it. That movie it's brilliant in the respect that it takes you back to the era of watching horror on a VHS tape that we recorded off of TV. I don't know about you guys or how whoever's listening, how you guys experience your horror, but for me, I had a lot of my horror on VHS tapes, and back in those days, you could record 2 or 3 movies on one singular VHS tape. So, and a lot of times we would record them off of like a USA type of movie special or HBO type thing. And sometimes there were commercials. So it was just, it feels like watching a movie when you're a kid, when you put on WNUF. But at the same time, it's tapping into that, you know, voyeuristic nature of horror, of like we're watching this horrific thing happen on screen. And the funny thing about the difference between WNUF and television terror is that in WNUF, they have really gone out of their way to stage this event. In television terror, you know, he just kind of goes in and things just kind of start happening. But in this particular film, they're like staging the event to try to make it an entertainment. And then things really end up going wrong. So I think that really says a lot, too, about us as, you know, the entertainment industry, as both the producers of shows and the viewers, is that now we've got a team of producers who are going so far as to stage a haunting just to get views. And then, are people really buying into this? And are they only watching because they think that something really horrific is going to happen? And I think that says a lot about society. Like, you're only watching it because the anticipation of something really horrific happening. I remember, you know, you watch Ghost Hunters and we turn it off because, oh, nothing really is really happening. Man, that says something about you, you know? Like, you're turning off the show because nothing horrific is happening? What the crap is that? But, you know, that's just part of the conversation, I guess. Now comes Deadstream. This is a very entertaining film. This is influencer horror at its most brutal and sharp and witty, and I loved it. The character Sean Rudy is a very specific kind of person. He's very performative, obnoxious, desperate for the clicks, the likes, the views. We all know this. We all know this guy. We've seen this YouTuber. We know this YouTuber. Maybe I'm that YouTuber. I don't know. I'm not that desperate though. I'm not going to spend the night in a haunted house. And we watch him because it's entertaining. His show in the movie is based on him putting himself into the things that scare him the most, and he goes to some really insane measures just to get people to watch him. And man, that's a gut punch. It's saying, hello, complicated much, like what is wrong with society? But maybe that's also the genius of that found footage error. It really is that it implicates us. There's no cinematic distance, there's no musical score, although in Deadstream I do love how he made a playlist and recorded it on a tape, and so whenever he wanted to amplify the situation or the tense situation with music, he just plays the music. It was very well. I mean, guys, you got to watch Deadstream. It is very well done in terms of found footage. Every aspect of it was accounted for. Even when you're watching it and you start to go, yeah, but what about this? Moments later, the answer is revealed to you. So and I also want to say about Deadstream too. If you decide to watch it, it's a Shudder original. It's also free right now on YouTube. Make sure that you pay attention if you can. And I had to actually watch the film twice to make sure I got all the story. Because as the live stream is happening, there are parts where they'll show the viewer comments. Guys, read those comments. It's almost like a mini subplot in and of itself, but they are great. There are some of them that are funny, some of them that add to the plot of the situation. But read all of the comments because that is a great part of the story as well. It really taps into that active participation. So not only are you watching the movie, but you are also you feel like you're part of the live stream because the comments are coming in and everything. I don't know. That movie really just sort of brought you in as an audience member, which was brilliant for a found footage. It's not just like the fear of the situation of the ghost or the demon or whatever, man. It's the act of watching, as I keep mentioning throughout this episode. It's in the replay button, It's the realization that we as the viewers are becoming part of this just by observing. And when people observe this, why aren't we doing something? We're just sitting here watching it, but instead of acting, instead of helping. And that's scary. Because we're engaged. We keep watching because we want to, and it's weird. And here's a thought that's very sticky. What does that say, That horror only works when we believe it might be real? That we lean in closer when something feels just a little too authentic? I mean, there's something deeply unsettling about that instinct. I mean, I don't know, guys. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? What do you feel about that? That you're only going to watch something if it's real, and if it's not, you're going to turn it off. Because that was something that was happening in the comments of that film, was that some of the viewers were saying, oh, this situation isn't real, so I'm turning it off. This is fake, and then they start putting him down because they think it's not real. And I'm like, guys, you want this person to be in a horrific situation for real? Man, what the heck is that? I don't know. And I've got to say, guys, the Yunnan Black is a perfect match for this conversation because it's not flashy, it's not flavored, it doesn't announce itself. It sort of seeps in with a little earthy, smoky, sort of grounded texture, kind of comforting you. But then it has a woo. And boy, the longer it brews, the stronger that bite gets too. It hits you right in the back. Very complex tea. I enjoy it at the same time, but I don't know if it's one that I would drink all the time. It just has a very earthy taste to it. I don't know. It tastes very much like I'm drinking a plant. And not to say that's bad, because I am very much enjoying it. It's just, it is a very strong tea. And, but I think it makes a very good comparison to the topic for the conversation today, because the found footage genre isn't something that I always migrate to. But the ones that I do find are very strong and gritty and grounded, very much like the tea. So I think that that's a perfect combination for today's discussion. All right, friends, we're going to take a break from all the chit-chat and play a little steeped in cinema trivia. And let's see how well that you guys do with your 5 questions of found footage terror. Now, guys, all of our questions today are going to revolve around the topics and movies that we've been discussing. Television terror from Tales from the Crypt, WNUF Halloween Special, and Deadstream, and found footage in general. So, here we go. 5 questions about found footage terror. Question number 1. Shudder original film Deadstream was directed by which husband and wife team? Question number 2. What year does the WNUF Halloween Special take place in? Question number 3. What is the name of the fictional talk show host in the Tales from the Crypt episode Television Terror? Question number 4. Which found footage horror film was falsely marketed as a real documentary in 1999? And finally, question number 5. In Deadstream, what is the name of the haunted house that Sean spends the night in? All right, ghoulies, let's head back to the beginning and go through some answers here. I hope you guys did okay. Question number 1, Deadstream, the Shudder original film, was directed by which husband and wife team? And the answer is Joseph and Vanessa Winter. They were the directors responsible for Deadstream, and hats off to them. Great job. Question number 2, what year does the WNUF Halloween Special take place in? And the answer is 1987. Again, if you guys haven't watched WNUF, I completely recommend it. It is a fantastic callback to the era in terms of having that VHS style of watching a film. Question number 3, what is the name of the fictional talk show host in Tales from the Crypt Television Terror? And the answer is, as I've said it throughout the episode, Horton Rivers. Horton Rivers, played by Morton Downey Jr., I believe. Great episode of Tales from the Crypt, as all were. Question number 4, which found footage horror film was falsely marketed as a real documentary in 1999? And the answer is, of course, The Blair Witch Project. And just as a little side note there, friends, Blair Witch Project, not one of my favorites. Question number 5, in Deadstream, what is the name of the haunted house that Sean spends the night in? And the answer is Death Manor. That's right. All right, guys. Well, I hope you did good on our little horror trivia for found footage terror. If you guys have any questions or any topics for trivia, please go ahead and submit those on our social media sites on Facebook or Instagram. Oh, that's a strong tea. Okay. All right, guys. Before we conclude, I, as always, want to bring up one more topic of discussion, and one that I don't think we hear anything about on this particular topic. One of the most revealing aspects of found footage horror is the idea of the camera as a confessional. And it's not just a storytelling device or, the visual gimmick, but it's a tool for characters to reveal things that they might not say otherwise. A digital priest, if you will. So think about it. Traditional horror there is usually an observer. The audience watches the characters. But in found footage, the characters are often talking directly to us. They're vlogging, live streaming, documenting, etc., etc. And through that process, they're confessing. They're confessing their fears, their regrets, their insecurities, and maybe, if we're honest, that's why this subgenre hits a little harder than we expect, because we're not just watching their story, we are hearing their truths. Take Deadstream. Okay, we got Sean Rudy. Yes, he's obnoxious, and yes, he's a satire of an influencer culture. But underneath all of that ridiculousness, there's this desperation to be seen, to be forgiven. The whole live stream isn't just about regaining his popularity amongst his viewers. It's about a redemption arc disguised as a ghost hunt. He's saying, look at me, please understand me, forgive me. I'm not this person who you think that I am, or who you thought that I was from this event. I'm this, look, pay attention. And sure, he masks it in a sarcasm and bravado way, but you see it in the quieter moments when the joking stops and the fear starts to take over. He's begging. He keeps that camera on only because it's the only way he knows how to reach people. And in this particular film, I think it's just because, I don't want to be alone. So we're going to leave that camera on, because I remember saying to Megan, there's a moment in the film where he has his his wireless, his device, his tablet for watching, to interact with his viewers, and he's in the car, and then he breaks it accidentally. And there's a moment where I was just kind of like, holy crap, now you're really alone, because before you could talk to somebody and maybe get some sort of help in the outside or get advice or something, but now there's no one to talk to. And that's it was kind of a scary moment. I don't know. It just made me feel creepy and under my skin. And I think that was a pretty awesome little tiny little, you either catch it or you don't. And I think it was a great direction in that particular moment. But then let's rewind then to, pun intended, to WNUF Halloween Special. This is a movie operates on a different level. The characters don't really talk to the camera in the same way. They are part of a news broadcast, which is different than a live stream, and they're acting like professionals. But once the haunting starts, though, and the glitches take over, the characters drop that on-air personality, and suddenly, that mask of control is gone, and now we're not watching performers doing their fake haunting. Now we're watching people who are freaking scared, confused, and trapped by a narrative that they're no longer in control of. And again, that's horror is not just the supernatural stuff. It's the fact that this broadcast is still going and we are still watching it. And then television terror, which is kind of similar, but the episode is also a perfect example of the confessional turning against the confessor. Horton Rivers begins the segment fully in control. He's cocky, he's theatrical, feeding off the camera, making fun of people, putting people down. But the moment that he realizes the house is actually haunted, that moment of realization, you see that panic. The bluster drops. He's not talking to the viewers anymore. Now he's begging to his producers to get him out of there. He's trying to negotiate. He's trying to figure out the situation. He's not caring about the viewers anymore. The camera in that moment becomes a mirror, and what it reflects is fear. Raw, real fear. But still, the show doesn't stop. And that is what's chilling, that even as things are going wrong, the broadcast still is going. They leave him in that room. They're saying, no, Horton, we got to keep the broadcast rolling because the ratings are just too high. And man, as I keep mentioning, that really says something uncomfortable about us, about our obsession with documenting everything. Our tendency to film instead of to help, to post instead of to process. We've trained ourselves to think that everything needs to be recorded, even our worst moments, because, hey, maybe we'll get attention. Maybe someone will understand. Maybe somewhere someone is watching and they will finally see me. I'm telling you guys, found footage doesn't work because of jump scares. It works because it captures the stuff that we are not supposed to say out loud. The camera doesn't just record, it invites confession. It creates a space where people, characters, yes, but they're people. You know, it's a reflection of people, and they feel like it's a place where they creates a place where they can be honest. And even if that honesty is messy or scared or broken. And isn't that kind of beautiful in a strange way? In this genre that's supposed to frighten us, we get these deeply human moments of vulnerability. And whether it's a live stream or a lost VHS tape or whatever, what we're seeing isn't just horror. It's connection. Or at least the desperate hope for it. And yeah, I have to say that I think I'm good on this tea. That is some strong tea, both in flavor and in caffeine. I got the jitters. Woo! Ghoulies found footage horror is one of those rare genres that shifts and mutates with every era. It's intimate, it's raw, and it's always hitting nerves, whether it's from a broadcast or a old VHS tape or a chaos of a live stream. These films tap into something deeply human, our need to be seen, our fear of being alone, and our obsession with watching even when we know we shouldn't. Today we unpacked the eerie brilliance of television terror from Tales from the Crypt, the nostalgic unease of the WNUF Halloween Special, and the digital descent of Deadstream. 3 entries of found footage horror that show just how versatile and revealing the genre really is. They scare us, yeah, we also had some laughs, but they also tell the truth, whether we're ready to hear it or not. And speaking of truth, the Yunnan Black was the perfect match for this episode. Very bold, without being flashy. No flavors added here, just its true self, layered without being overwhelming. I wouldn't say it's overwhelming, but it is strong. It stays. It hangs on the tongue a little bit, very rich and earthy, and stays with you. Huge thanks to the Ohio Tea Company for supplying and keeping our cups full. Be sure to check them out at 5154 Fulton Drive or online at www.ohiotco.com. And if you're enjoying Steeped in Cinema, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. You can listen to us anywhere you stream podcasts. Leave a review, help new listeners find us, and let's keep the conversation going. Also, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Steeped in Cinema. I will also put links to those accounts in the description of this episode. And join our ever-growing community of film lovers and tea drinkers. We definitely want to hear from you, Ghoulies. Big shout out to Rob Tolleson for suggesting this episode. If you have a suggestion for a film or a tea, or if you want to be part of the discussion, hit us up. Let us know what freaked you out the most. What's your favorite found footage? Let's talk. I want to hear about it. What stuck with you? Have you seen any of these films? Did you like them? Let me know. Well, friends, that's all I have for Steeped in Cinema today, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep steeping your mind in great cinema. Cheers.